channel. For those of you who don't know me, or if you've never been here before, welcome. My name's Rachel and I'm the owner and creator here at the Eclectic Cottage in Spokane, Washington. Happy Friday. Hope you've had a great week so far. For today's video, I have something just a little bit different for you. I have a DIY project and I ventured into fall for this. So what I did for today's video are called Bundt pan pumpkins. And I had bought these Bundt pans. I just thought they were pretty, honestly. I was just gonna hang them on the wall or paint them and then hang them on the wall. But a viewer mentioned to me that she had seen people make pumpkins with them. So I did some research and I found a couple different ideas. So this is my take on a Bundt pan pumpkin. So I hope you like them. I ended up doing 5 and I hope you enjoy the video. And if you do, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you would think about subscribing to my channel and then just hit that little notification bell so you don't miss anything. I also would love to know which of the pumpkins your favorite is. So comment below and let me know. And also if you have any questions on anything. Anyway, without further ado, let's get to today's projects. So here's my collection of Bundt pans that I have been gathering over the past probably couple of months. I think I picked up one at an estate sale, a couple at yard sales, and the rest at Goodwill, at the bins, all over. Anyway, the first step I wanted to do was to get these all one uniform color. So I am going in with one good even coat of Rustoleum's 2X in dark brown because I want to distress all of these, and I want, when I distress them, I want them all distressed back to the same color. So this is just a really good place to get started and give them all the same look. One of the steps I needed to get done was to dye these flour sack cloths. They come very, very white. And I learned this trick from Teresa over at Our Green Acres, that you can just dye them very easily with some coffee. Now, of course, I was impatient and my coffee's still a little bit hot. So that's why I'm very gingerly kind of poking those down into the coffee and then wringing them out. And then I'm just going to set those aside to dry, and you'll see them a little bit later on in the project. We're going to be using these flour sack cloths to make what I call lasagna ribbons, which is another trick I learned from Teresa. So then it's on to painting my pumpkins, and I picked a palette that I really love for fall, and the colors I'm using are Skeleton Key, Summer Crush, Prairie Grey, Crinoline, and Faded Burlap. So each one of these is getting 2 good even coats of their respective colors. This one is Crinoline, and I'm pouncing the paint on to give it a little bit more of a textured appearance. I really didn't want any brush strokes to show on these, and that's why I'm doing it that way. So here they all are with their first coat of paint, and then it's on to the second coat. This paint is so highly pigmented and very thick, and so it goes on really, really well. And there were only a couple places on a couple of these that I needed to go over a third time. So here I am, just again, pouncing that paint on to each one of the pumpkins and then setting them aside individually to dry. Just a reminder, you can buy any of these paints at my web shop at www.theeclecticcottagespokane.com. Next up, I am going to make some stems for these, and for that I am using old rungs from old chairs that we had torn down. So I measured my height that I kind of needed, and then I took these outside and with my chop saw chopped up 5 different stems for these pumpkins. So once I'm done, you can kind of see how they're going to look. And then I am taking them and I am painting them with one good even coat of DIY's weathered wood. I really love this color for the stems on these. I had to paint them in kind of 2 stages, one for the top and then pick them up by once they were dry so I could paint the little bottom sections of each one. Took a minute, but I got them all finished pretty quickly. Then it's on to distressing my pumpkins. And so I'm just taking my damp shop towel and rubbing in the places that I want that brown paint to show through, hitting some of the high points and kind of making sure that I've got even brown showing through around the entire ring. So it speeded up really, really fast. So, and then you can see what it looks like when it's done. So I did this same technique to all 5 of the pans. And I really love how the brown looks underneath each one of these colors. So I was really, really happy with this technique. What I did find is that if you take your damp cloth and kind of dampen the area that you want to distress, and then let it set for a second, it definitely helps reactivate that paint a little faster and make it a little bit easier to wash back. Then I needed to do the same technique to the stems. I wanted just a little bit of that wood tone to show through from underneath the paint. So I took each one of my stems and very carefully distressed them as well. The next step is sealing my paint, and for this I'm using DIY's Big Top. I wanted these to be nice and durable, and I really didn't mind a little bit of a sheen to them, so that is what I'm using. Plus it just makes things really easy. All I have to do is set them aside to dry. So each one just gets one good even coat of the Big Top. And if you've been working with DIY paint, or if you've never worked with DIY paint, it is porous and it can be reactivated with water. So it always needs to be sealed, either with a wax or some sort of a finish. So once that is finally done, I set all of my pans aside to dry, and then it's time to do the same thing to the stems. So one at a time, I gave each one of the stems one good even coat of Big Top. Now you'll see on one of the stems, I missed a little portion, and I didn't figure that out until I was actually decorating that particular pumpkin and had to get out a brush and paint just that little area. So then it's time to glue in the stems. Now each one of these pans has a little lip down in there, just enough to put a little bit of glue and attach each one of these spindles. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, just putting a little bit of glue down on that metal and then placing each one of those spindles down inside there, pressing down really well, and then setting them aside to dry. Then I am going back to my flour sack cloth, and I am taking all of the seams off of the cloth, just giving a little cut and then tearing. Then I set it down and I made 12 cuts at 1 inch apart using my ruler, so that I could have 12 strips of flour sack cloth that would be pretty close to all the same width. Once I tore all my strips, I just kind of laid them flat together and then moved on to embellishing my pumpkin. So I started by putting a little bit of hot glue down inside the hole there and filling that with Spanish moss. Once that was done, I started making a little curlicue for the top of it using this wrapped wire that I'd found at Hobby Lobby. And I'm just wrapping it around the only round object about the right size I could find, which was this piece of leftover spindle, and then manipulating it kind of into the shape that I want, and then adding a little bit of hot glue and placing that down. I decided I wanted 2 of those for each of my pumpkins, so this is just me repeating that process again. I learned that if I stuck my fingers up through there and then wrapped it around a couple of my fingers, it made a little smaller loops, which was nice. Then I am simply using some florals that I found at Hobby Lobby on their 40% off aisle, and cutting those to pieces and then just placing pieces one at a time with a little bit of hot glue onto my piece. I really wanted this to look kind of like, I wanted it to be more of a tabletop centerpiece, I guess. Once I have some of those in place, I went ahead and started to make my lasagna ribbon. And how I did that was I just took a piece of lace and laid it down, 2 strips of flour sack cloth, another piece of lace, and then two more strips of flour sack cloth, and then finish it off with a piece of lace. I find that using the lace top and bottom, they tend to be seen a little easier when you're done with your ribbon. So I tie it in the middle with just a little bit of string, cut off the tails, add a little bit of glue, and you'll see me glue that on here in just a minute. As I was doing this, it was a little bit open, and I wanted to fill some of the gaps, so I ended up adding a few flowers and some more of the little berries. Then it's time to add my ribbon, so I just add a little bit of hot glue to the back of it and press it down right at the base of the stem, making sure that it's well adhered. And then I just I call it fussing, so just kind of mess with the ribbon to make sure that it's spread out the way that I want it, and the lace is showing where I want it to, and that it's all kind of laying down nice and flat. Little tuck here, little tuck there. Just kind of, making sure that everything looks the way I want it to. Then it's time for the last finishing touch. I found these cute little buttons with rhinestones at Hobby Lobby. They were on sale for really cheap. And so I add one of those to the center of the ribbon, and then this pumpkin is done. Of my Bundt pan pumpkins. I hope you liked them, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, again, please remember to give it a thumbs up. I so appreciate that. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you'd think about subscribing to my channel, and then just hit that little notification so you don't miss any of the craziness that goes on here in my kitchen at the cottage. For Tuesday's video, I'm really honestly not sure at this point exactly what I'm doing for that. We are having a sidewalk sale here at the cottage tomorrow, so that has engrossed a little bit more of my time than I'd hoped, but I will think of something. So I hope you'll meet me back here on Tuesday. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.